Illithids were megalomaniacal in the extreme, tyrants driven by an immense ambition and intrinsically ruled by an overwhelming sense of self-importance. Utterly arrogant, mind flayers were also elitists who believe all creatures to be inferior to themselves. Now, that may have seemed like nonsense right there. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and stick with me. That's going to matter here in just a moment because I've seen a couple of incredibly ridiculous posts about Dungeons & Dragons and the people behind the posts. I want to get into it and cover it with you and explain why Wizards of the Coast has gone woke, why Dungeons & Dragons has gone woke, and why it's failing, because it is people who have this exact same mindset. Now, I'm going to show you guys a couple of posts that both came along my Twitter feed today that have to do with Dungeons & Dragons or tabletop RPGs in general. Let's start with this one. This is Cindy. Cindy likes to force her personal beliefs into ttrpgs, tabletop role-playing games. Cindy likes to get offended over jokes regarding fictional characters. Don't be like Cindy. Now, that's absolutely true, 100% accurate. If you're going to get in there, if you're going to play D&D, or you're going to play Werewolf the Reckoning, or you're going to play any other tabletop RPG out there, you're playing a character. You're not playing yourself, or if you are playing yourself, I get it, that's fun to do every now and again, maybe get some imagination for other characters, but do not come in there and start putting in your personal feelings and your real world politics in the game of Dungeons & Dragons, or insert your D&D preference here, your tabletop RPG preference here. But we have this individual, the pod of many things. Quick PSA to Twitter and Instagram, tabletop RPG and MTG crew. If I see you post the following posts, I'll unfollow you. Major red flags. Yes, major red flags. It is a red flag to believe, hey, do not bring your politics to the table. If we want to make jokes about fictional characters, if we want to, I don't know, have fun, that's a red flag. Fun during tabletop RPGs, that's a red flag. Your boy's been a DM for the last 10 years. I used to love it, but I don't play wotc games anymore. I do still love tabletop RPGs in general, but let's just mostly talk about Dungeons & Dragons since that's the big one everyone knows. I've given up playing Dungeons & Dragons for the most part because I do not support wotc. Anyone that's a returning viewer and has followed my Magic the Gathering content will absolutely know that, but yes, don't be like Cindy. This individual here wants to remove fun. That being said, there's more to go along with this. So here we see the pot of many things, which is this individual's channel, and hey, not doing too bad. 30, he, him, UK, Firebulg, autistic. Of course, the dude with pronouns in his bio has to talk about how he's autistic. And then, if you want to take a look at their YouTube channel, it says, welcome whoever, wherever, and whenever you are to the Pod of Many Things, a friendly discussion-based tabletop RPG podcast from the UK. Welcome whoever and wherever. Really, whoever? What about people that disagree with you? Because I thought you just said that you're going to block us. So it's not whoever, it's whoever as long as they agree with you. What if we want to have a friendly discussion about why this ideology is so toxic? It's people that believe things like this that Wizards of the Coast has been trying to cater to with Magic the Gathering, with Dungeons & Dragons, and that's why we've seen the games utterly destroyed, because we're not allowed to have fun anymore because everything has to be so politically correct. Oh no, we cannot call them races anymore because the word race is racist. You have to say species. We cannot say half-elves or half-orc because the term half is intrinsically racist. Drow are no longer an evil species or evil race, however you want to say it, because oh no, an entirely evil species of dark-skinned elves must be entirely a racist concept. It is so mind-blowing, but this is literally the demographic of individuals that play Dungeons & Dragons at this point. I'm so happy I gave it up. Now, to be fair, most people on the internet are roasting this meme, like AGP Webtastic Stories is out. Not sure who he is, but he's roasting it. Cindy is offended by this meme. It portrays her eating pepperoni on her pizza and she's vegan. But the message is true. Don't be like Cindy. So yeah, the vast majority of people, I'm not going to pull up a ton of examples of people dunking on this tweet, because if you're watching my stuff, you'd probably dunk on it as well. But it's not just this. I get it. This is sort of an innocuous, fun meme. However, I want to divert your attention to what seems to be a true story, or at least I can absolutely believe it's a true story. Today I shut down my D&D campaign and decided I can't be a DM anymore. For over a decade I've been a DM. It always made me happier than playing a character. I, for one, can relate to this. While I do enjoy playing a character, the idea of being a DM and creating this world and playing these roles is so much fun to me. Like that is where the improv that I've been doing ever since high school, and my love for stand-up comedy and my love of writing, it's really kept me sharp being a DM all these years out of school, being able to write and do this sort of improv. So being a DM is the ultimate treasure for me. So I understand this guy's mentality perfectly. The world building, breathing life into a realm, and making characters and stories that are memorable for my players has always given me the greatest joy. It's what I do most days when I'm not at work. I make maps, I dream up inhabitants of these places, I research everything to make things as realistic as I can. Yesterday, a newer player approached me privately, telling me that it was wrong for me to be voicing accents for characters whom I do not have an in real life link to ancestry towards. Right here, they have a new player who is, and of course it's a new player because D&D has only been doing this whole woke stuff saying, oh, we have to be socially conscious, even though it's a completely fictionalized fantasy world for the last 3 to 5 years or so. So of course a new player would have some sort of ideology like this, when this is complete and utter bogus. I do accents for all my characters, and you know what? My favorite character that I've ever done is a sassy black barkeep named Creasa. And you know what? She would come in here and she would tell the adventurers, you ain't starting a ruckus in my tavern. You want to sit there and you want to cut off a dwarf's head? You go do it outside, motherfucker. Like, I loved playing Creasa because Creasa was a blast. Oh, Leon, that's a stereotypical black voice. You're racist. Bullshit. When Creasa's tavern got burnt to the ground, guess what? She survived and she found the orcs that did it and she whipped their ass. So no, that's a strong, powerful black woman right there. That is the opposite of racism. Let's continue with this, though. This is something I do. I've never approached things in an attempt to make caricatures out of anybody. I guess they're technically better than I am. When I populate a world, I look to a place and I tend to imagine a real-world analogy for those who live there. If there's a big arid savanna, I think of their roots as noble tribes similar to the Zulu nations, later in history becoming something similar to Ethiopia, a proud people who stand alone against all outsiders with a proud sense of self. Or maybe I think of people similar to Mexico, a patriotic nation born of revolution and strife, who are finding a place after such as their own people with a love of music, the gods, and family. Poets, bards, masters of those with a zeal for life. When I decide upon these, I will look up the accent in English and I will practice. I will look up stage play tutorials, as well as guides to the accent from people of that nation. I practice it in my empty house when I'm alone to get the accent perfect and natural sounding. Never once have I done accents to belittle or demean. I do them because in my mind, these are the people I see living in my worlds. I want them there because their views and their outlooks and their histories speak to me. I was told that my accents would be acceptable if I played races suitable to my appearance. English, Scottish, Irish, Scandinavian, and the like. Never mind that I don't have lineage to some such, but it's offensive otherwise. And there we go. They're saying purely based on the color of this ex-dungeon master or game master, depending's skin, there's certain characters, only certain characters he can create and have inhabit his worlds. That is incredibly limiting. I thought that the whole goal of having this, new diverse tabletop gaming was so that people of any and all races can be enjoyed. I guess that does not include, the actual game world you're filling out. Hey, sorry, white DM, you're gonna have to only voice characters that look like you. What? I wanted diversity in this game. I want some black people. I want some Latino people, or at least people that look like that since it's a fantasy game. Nope, we gotta have all white because you're a white dungeon master. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of your drive for diversity? And I get it, this isn't coming from wotc. It's not like wotc is the one saying this, but if they're instilling this ideology that everything is so racial and race-based and that any deviation from that is inherently racist, they are actually breeding racism in these new players, because now players are saying, if you're a white DM, then we need to have an all-white campaign or an all-white group of individuals that inhabit this vast land that you're making up, which is just bananas. Also, it proves it's skin deep because he says, I don't have lineage to some such. So let's say that he's a white. Just because you're white doesn't mean you've got like French lineage. So is doing a French accent racist? Is it not racist? They apparently, according to this, the new player would be all right with him doing a French accent. He wants to come out there and he wants to talk about how, this dwarf wants a croissant. That would very much be a caricature, but it would be an okay one because the guy doing it is white and French people are white. I don't know if French was that was a good example to use considering what's going on in France right now with the riots, but whatever, here we are. I'm heartbroken. I can't play under this magnifying glass of scrutiny. So I sent out a message to all players that I'm canceling my sessions. I've never thought I was a bad DM or a problem, but maybe I was. No, you weren't. And the fact that you're thinking this shows that you were just as soy-filled as the individual that came and complained to you. What you should have done is told this individual, find a different group. If you don't like the way that I run my games, if you don't think I should be doing these accents that I practice so meticulously on to make my world feel real and lived in and fleshed out, then tell them to kick rocks, or maybe just hope they get eaten by a rust monster, because I am so sick of people. Am I the problem? Am I a bad dungeon master? Nah, you've been doing this the same way for, God, I don't know how long, but I've been DMing for over a decade. D&D's been around since the late 70s. We got people who have been DMing for literally 4 decades, if not more at this point, 5 decades. I'm sure you're doing just fine at your DMing abilities, but modern society has convinced you that you're the problem because they are so soft, because they look at and see race in everything. You can't play a high fantasy game about gnomes and orcs and dragons and, like I said earlier, ithalids, mind flayers, without having to incorporate some sort of modern sensibility, intersectional feminism, whatever it is, it all has to come into the game. You can't just shut out the outside world and play a fantasy game anymore without being gaslit. So, but you know what? Maybe this gaslighting is gotten to you. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but for the poster of this, no. If you're canceling all your games and your sessions and you're going to stop being a DM because of this one new player instead of telling them to screw off, you are a bad DM, because a good DM would take control of the situation and tell them, hey, find a new group to play with. Apologies if this is heavy or a long read. I just wanted to talk about it. Now, here's what really brings this home for me. I brought up the definition of an illithid earlier. Illithids, otherwise known as mind flayers, are megalomaniacal to the extreme, tyrants driven by immense ambition, and intrinsically ruled by an overwhelming sense of self-importance. Utterly arrogant, mind flayers were elitists who believed all creatures to be inferior to themselves. That is the current player base. That is these type of individuals that will absolutely try and shut you down and tell you you cannot play the game the way it's been being played for about 5 decades now, all because of current modern sensibilities around these social aspects that have no bearing on the fictional game. I mean, it's all right there. Utterly arrogant? Well, of course, anyone that says that this fantasy game that's supposed to be as open as possible has to be played a particular way, that is arrogance. They are so arrogant, they think that they can dictate the rules for the entire group of people who love playing this game. They are elitists. Well, of course they're elitists. Being an elitist comes with being arrogant. You think that your way is the best. You must be having an elite way of thinking if you've got this sort of mentality. So yeah, no kidding, you're elitist. Megalomaniacal in the extreme, tyrants driven by immense ambition? Well, yeah, the ambition to change what has worked for 5 decades, that's pretty ambitious. Not ambitious in a good way, but ambitious nonetheless, and it's definitely tyrannical. If you want to sit there and change not just maybe the group of 5 or 6 or 7 players you're playing with, but the fundamental reality of how this game is ran literally worldwide, that's pretty tyrannical ambition, and intrinsically ruled by overwhelming sense of self-importance, because once again, you have to think so goddamn highly of yourself and think you are so important if you can tell people as a new player that have been playing this game for decades that they're doing it wrong and the right way is the way that you're doing it. That is the definition of self-importance. But then again, that's why I gave up Dungeons & Dragons and most tabletop RPGs in general, because I don't know if there's very many people that I can find online or whatnot that I trust enough. I would still play with my close personal friends, of course, but I'm not giving wotc another dime, all because they've created this breed of player. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter. You can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, not always about Dungeons & Dragons and Wizards of the Coast, but also anime, movies, Magic the Gathering, you name it. It's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.